What Choice Do I Have by Croft. Inspiration. People like to choke it down your throat, especially these days. Everyone has an opinion on how you should be more positive, but inspiration isn't one size fits all model. Inspiration largely is a negative subject. In order to be inspired, it means one is currently uninspired, or for all intents and purposes, is in a bad place. So why do inspirational icons always champion the narrative that exists after inspiration has struck? This is useless to someone who is feeling uninspired. If you're anything like me, 1 ounce of positivity in a not so distant past would have sent me running from you. Here is one fractal piece of my story. I hope it helps. It was Friday, February 22nd, 2019, around 3 p.m., and the call I had been waiting for came in. My gut already knew the answer. I knew I had cancer. But hearing those words over the line, "I'm sorry, Caitlin, it came back positive. The tumor is cancerous," just hit different. Gathering every ounce of my composure available, I thanked the nurse for their quick work and the staff's kindness to me. My biopsy had only been 2 days earlier, which seemed like warp speed in the medical world. After hanging up, I sunk to the floor with my back against the kitchen cabinets. For the absolute first time in my life, I had nothing. Nothing to think, nothing to feel, nothing to say. Then after what felt like a century, I heard a knock at the door. It was my dad. He had just finished his day over at Holiday Valley Ski Resort and stopped by. I didn't need to tell him. He knew the prognosis was not ideal. He was over for but a couple minutes, but that was all I needed. As a cancer survivor himself, I am sure his mind was swimming with the natural questions. Why my daughter? Why now after all I've been through? Etc. He hugged me and he said, "We will get to the bottom of this together." Then he left. It was after this that I returned to that spot in the kitchen, but this time I slid down slowly, then cried until I couldn't. I don't really remember for how long I sat there, but it looked something like this in my head. You're 30. Living alone, your career is finally taking off, and now you have cancer. Not to mention, we don't know how far along it is. It was in this moment I allowed the unknown to consume me. It was in this moment, looking back, I said, enough. It was in this moment I stood up and knew I had to become the version of me that doesn't just beat this and live a hollow life after, but changes the world. It was time to meet my maker at the table and sort this life thing out. Next, the radiologist who performed my initial ultrasound popped into my head. When he first told me it was most likely cancer by the size, shape, and location of the tumor, I took the news in stride. Behind the scenes in my brain, I knew I had been sick for some time. So all he was doing was giving me an outside indicator of what I already knew on the inside, that I was gravely sick. But in the next breath, he told me this: "You are taking this news much better than anyone I have ever given this potential prognosis to. Women much older than you have crumpled at it." I said back to him, "What choice do I have?" The moment after hung in the air with a palpable force, and this memory is seared into my brain. I fear for life. Back to my kitchen floor, I slowly got up a second time and muttered to myself, "What choice do I have?" Within 2 weeks, I had been to Roswell Cancer Center, had surgery to remove the tumor and the affected lymph nodes. Thankfully, my cancer ended up being in a, quote, gray area. After first being told chemo was needed, in the end, my doctors decided we were able to forego that treatment. While I had been waiting for the plan of action, I was mediating as much as possible. I would always picture a window. Each time it was open a little more. I lovingly refer to this now as my chemo window. The window had been opened, and I was able to escape the fate chemo at a younger age, and I would not take this for granted. My family and community rallied behind me with love and support I'd never allowed myself to feel before. It was magical. By motivating myself intrinsically, my extrinsic world flourished. On the bad days, which still occur more than I'd care to admit, I remind myself for all the negative things that happen to me, it has to be returned with equal or greater positive experiences. This was something I clung to when healing after 33 near straight rounds of radiation to half of my chest and internal organs. With cancer patients, I have found it is never just cancer. At least, this was true for me. I had to take a hard look at how I treated myself, how I thought about myself, and what I allowed in my life. These days, I'm a lot nicer between the ears. When I need rest, I rest without guilt. When it is time to work, I work like the forces of the universe are behind me. Years ago, a friend taught me the expression, "The juice was worth the squeeze." He really had to explain it to me, though. When we got to the end of a grueling hike, we looked at the waterfall and he said to me, "The juice was worth the squeeze." I understood for once. The work I put in was worth the joy I got out. Spending the next years contemplating the concept and going through the ups and downs life threw my way, cancer included, it became a sort of measuring stick for experience. My calculative brain constantly geared towards finding the maximum efficiency which could muck up the simplest of plans. I blame this on a supply chain management class in university that hammered efficiency calculations into our heads. But little did I know, this same inspiration would carry me forward with strength I'd never known. Through the ups and downs of facing radiation alone, old heartbreaks, new heartbreaks, COVID, transitioning to Taxafin, the pressure of finding success when so many were struggling, this inspiration taught me how to handle things with stoicism and grace while simultaneously strengthening the bonds in my world. Yes, I have amazing friends, family, and community, but it is at night that I am alone, have to fight the dark crevices of my mind that can so easily run the show. They say at the end we are alone, and this experience made me contemplate this on a level 30-something shouldn't have to in the modern era. I guess the point of this is, why wait for external signals or events to be perfect? In reality, if you are already searching for something, the change has been made within you, and just applying new behaviors to this attitude is what's needed. At least, this is what worked for me. What I want this piece to do is empower you to do what's best for you, holding back all outside judgment, and most importantly, the judgment you so needlessly bestow on yourself. Just keep doing the next right thing, and the right things will fall into place. I promise. Caitlin Croft is a licensed real estate salesperson in Ellicottville, New York. She is a full-time alpine race coach for Hollymont Ski Resort, a trustee for the village of Ellicottville, and a staff writer for Ellicottville Now. She is a proud member of Phi Alpha Delta and the Girl Scouts of America. Myself and Caitlin connected on Instagram because they live in the same small town, and Caitlin has helped me and my wife with many real estate purchases. If you're interested in stories like this, I invite you to check out this book, Beacons in the Darkness, Inspirational Stories from People I Know, available anywhere books are sold.